Peace all and welcome back to the mother of all colonial bullshit, white supremacy and genocide, and a very fitting place to really share what I'm about to, because this May the 19th of 2025 is 100 years since the birth of Malik Al-Hajj Shabazz, otherwise known as MalcolmX, and also given a name by the West African brothers and sisters Omawale, if I'm not mistaken, and forgive me if I am. And so I just wanted to kind of really just very kind of succinctly, as much as I can, just sum up what's the importance and significance of Malcolm X 100 years since his birth, and obviously he was martyred in February 1965. The significance of Malcolm X, and the reason he chimes with me, because he placed himself on the radical wings of the liberation movements against colonialism and white supremacy in the 50s going into the 60s. He came from a revolutionary family. His father was an organizer for Marcus Garvey's United Negro Improvement Association. But the reason why it's fitting, also why I share about Malcolm X here in front of this mother of all colonial genocide and nonsense and white supremacy, is because Malcolm X was very much positioned in an anti-British way. He was a fervent supporter of the Mau Mau Kikuyu resistance in Kenya against the British, which the British were absolutely terrified of. They were totally demonized and criminalized in a racist fashion by the British. Malcolm X said not only did he support the Mau Mau in fighting the British in Kenya, he says that black people all around the world should form Mau Mau organizations against colonial states. This was his advocacy. Now, Malcolm X represents a complexity, and he went through a political journey in which at certain times he did not hold positions at other times in his life, but the continuity, the militant thread running through in Malcolm X's entire political awakened conscious life is a revolutionary one of militant advocacy of resistance of oppressed non-white peoples in what he framed as the global black revolution and the message to the grassroots, which is arguably his most significant speech that he ever gave and his most important political framing. So really, the reason also why, and it speaks to exactly what I'm saying, the reason why Malcolm X is not being championed today, and I'm old enough to remember Spike Lee, very flawed, problematic film, but nevertheless Malcolm X, the Malcolm X film by Spike Lee in 91, 1990 perhaps, that was still at kind of, there was still culturally a mass level of kind of anti-colonial militancy and black power militancy, illustrated most kind of evidently culturally by the #1 hip-hop group at the time, which was a pro-Black Panther group, pro-Black Panther Party group, I should say, which was Public Enemy. Just extraordinary. I mean, people should go back to the archive and check out all the music and all the concerts and all that whole period. But the point I'm trying to make here is that fast forward till today, from the early 90s, who wants to celebrate Malcolm X? Who wants to celebrate a figure that represents the unity of all non-white people, African, Asian, Caribbean, etc., against colonialism, white supremacy, in a framework of liberation, economic liberation, cultural liberation, and political? In a context today of the hegemony of the right and the far right globally, of the collapse of the anti-colonial culture in a real sense in communities, this is why Malcolm X is so little celebrated today, but arguably that's why it's important to celebrate such important legacies and histories of anti-colonialism in a leadership sense in the form of Malcolm X and others. Now, my Fenian comrade I'm very close to says, well, he was never a gunman. Well, ironically and very sadly and tragically, he did hold a gun when he was defending himself and his family in his home in the violent split with the Nation of Islam and its leadership, which requires a whole nother exploration. But big up Malcolm X, big up Malcolm X. What he said still rings true today. He's a complex figure, but through it all, centrally, like I said, unite the oppressed, unite the most wretched, unite them in a militant struggle by any means necessary, for resistance and liberation until the very end against white supremacy, colonialism, and capitalism. So going back to this, Malcolm's position, anti-British position, everywhere the British were fighting their colonialism and people were fighting back, Malcolm stood with the people fighting back. He went to 1959 to visit Gamal Abdel Nasser as a envoy of Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam. He obviously supported the Vietnamese resistance as well. He supported the resistance in Congo today, DRC. And he always tied it together the way the global white man is united, the French, the Belgian, the British, the US. And just to finish off, he said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us, going back to the whole European colonizing mission and English colonizing mission in the Americas. He says we are not Americans, we are victims of Americanism. And look at this, how communities have internalized this colonial nonsense of British Islam and Muslims, British Asian and Black British. We are not British. We are victims of Britishness similarly. Big up Malcolm X. Big yourselves up.